We're still on opposite sides of cases. Our case earlier this year, a very intense case in the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit involving billions of dollars. We're on the opposite sides of the case. And again, he was arguing in court, and I was thinking, wait a minute, this sounds awfully good. It can't be. But that's in the courtroom, and we do it within the confines of the ethics and the standards, and you respect the other person in the arena. And I found every time I've watched David, and I've learned enormously. We've both been practicing law almost 50 years, and that's 50 years each.
That's right. I think they may have known that.
But David's cross-examination of those witnesses, if any people want to be a really great lawyer, you said Clarence Darrow, or you said Clarence Darrow. That's what I was thinking of when he was cross-examining witnesses and causing several witnesses who were going to be listed as witnesses, expert witnesses against us. David took their depositions and sort of dismantled them on video before the trial, and they decided maybe they didn't want to be a witness in the actual trial. And the one that did show up, then David dismantled during the trial, and that was maybe another question at some point. But we can work together because we respect one another, and this is the easiest man I've ever worked with in my life.
And it's not personal. That's the difference. It's just professional when you on Bush
it's
v.
both
Gore.
personal and professional. And when we're our opponent, the lead lawyer against us in Proposition 8 case, is a very fine lawyer and a very decent guy. I think that he's on the wrong side of this issue, obviously. And I think he probably believes the arguments that he's making, but he's a decent person. We started every day in sort of embracing one another and shaking hands so that the people in that courtroom could see that this was a civil experience, a professional experience. It wasn't nasty and wrangling or rancor or anything like that. So I think that's very, very important. But working with David Boies, anybody would want to work with David Boies.
How about you, Mr. Boies? Again, Mr. Olson's described it beautifully, how you always respected each other, came to respect each other more after Bush v. Gore, but maybe it's a little easier for him to be magnanimous since he won that case.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So talk about your own sort of coming together.
On the other hand, one of the things I was absolutely clear about after that is I was going to have him on my side next time. But one of the things that you get to know about somebody when you are against them, particularly in something that's as intense as Bush v. Gore or the Perry case, is you really get to know their character. You get to know their abilities, you get to know who they are, because you see them under all sorts of pressure, and you see them under every circumstance. And that kind of pressure cooker environment tells you a lot about who somebody is, what their character is. And I think that I'd known Ted before, and he had the reputation as sort of being the leading constitutional lawyer in the country. And I admired him to the extent I knew him, but I didn't know him very well. But when I saw him up close, and I saw him in that case, you could not help but admire his ability and his integrity. Lawyers sometimes forget what a powerful weapon integrity is. People sometimes think that by pursuing a short-term shortcut, by dissembling, by obscuring facts, you're going to get an advantage. And you sometimes can in a short-term environment. But it costs you what your most important strength is in a courtroom, and maybe in life, which is your credibility. And Ted never lost that lodestar. He never looked for the short-term advantage as opposed to making the fundamental point that he needed to make to win. And you have to admire somebody like that, and I did. But there are many, many issues that we disagree on passionately. But that doesn't mean that we can't be friends. It doesn't mean that we can't work together on the issues that we agree on. And it doesn't mean that when we're passionately arguing about these issues, we are attacking the other, or we're feeling that the other is attacking us. I've got 6 children. 2 of them on the absolute opposite sides of the political spectrum, far more removed than Ted and I am. When we get together at Thanksgiving, Christmas, and events like that, it doesn't take them long before they are vigorously arguing at a very high decimal level. But they are very close, they love each other, they work together, and they can fight, dispute, argue without becoming disagreeable. And I think that's part of the process of the court system. That's part of the process of our American political system. Lawyers perform a function. We're part of the process. We don't decide cases. We argue cases. We present the evidence. And you need somebody on the other side presenting the other side, because if you don't, the adversarial system doesn't work. The adversarial system only works when you've got 2 competent, careful lawyers with integrity on each side, because that's what brings the questions out. That's what brings the debate out that allows a judge or a jury to make a decision. And so if you respect the process, you inevitably are going to respect people on the other side who do a good job. And when you're in a really complicated case that's going on very intensely, the person on the other side is also about the only person that you can really talk to, because it's the only person that's as obsessed with the case as you are. Your children have long since lost any interest in talking to you. Your spouse will from time to time try to feign a continued interest. But the fact of the matter is that you are so involved in it, the only person that really understands you and that you can really go out and talk with is somebody on the other side. And so it is natural that lawyers would come together, and I think it's one of the shames that's in our profession that over the last few decades, lawyers have become much less respectful and collegial, civil towards each other, and have sort of begun to think that because they're fighting in courtrooms, they've got to fight outside.